I think the Bitcoin is ready for lower price this week, and in today's video I will be providing you guys with a brand new short idea on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. What we can see over here is that Bitcoin has been making a strong push towards the upside, but as I said, I believe that Bitcoin is ready for some further correction to the downside before more potential upside. What we can see over here more locally is that Bitcoin was making several pushes towards the upside in which we were sweeping through previous highs. We can see that we made a sweep of the high over here, another sweep of the high over here, and we made another one right over here. So we have seen several sweeps, and so far this week we have seen a push towards the downside that gave us a break of structure over here. Why is this a valid break of structure? Because we broke through a significant low right over here that brought us to a new high over here compared to this high that brought us to this higher low, and therefore this was a significant low to break, and therefore this was a valid break of structure. Now we were seeing some valid liquidity sweeps as well, because after we put in these highs we were seeing that we were breaking through previous lows all over the place, and because we are breaking through those previous lows and we are swing failing those previous lows, people hop into shorts. Now because people hop into breakdown shorts like this, or for example like breakdown shorts like this over here, because we were breaking through this low for example, we are engineering liquidity above the highs over here, and over here, because the people that enter those breakdown shorts, they place the stop loss of those shorts above these highs, and therefore we were engineering liquidity above these highs, and therefore these sweeps that were taking place over here were all valid and high probability sweeps of liquidity. So we have some valid sweeps of liquidity, we have a valid break of structure. All that we need now is a valid target, and when we move our ass to the daily time frame over here for Bitcoin, I can see a beautiful target right over here. We can see that we have this bullish daily fair value gap that will act as a magnet for price for Bitcoin. Alongside the bullish daily fair value gap, there's something interesting going on. We have this previous supply area right over here for the Bitcoin price as well. So we have a bullish breaker block that aligns with a bullish high probability fair value gap that could provide a bullish high probability and strong bounce towards the upside, maybe even towards brand new all-time highs. But guys, that's a plan for later on. More importantly is that a daily fair value gap is aligning with the bottom of this massive wick over here. Okay, so we have these equal lows, we have a bullish daily fair value gap that acts as a drawn liquidity, and we have this bullish breaker block that acts as a high probability POI, aka this low over here is a very nice target for potential shorts. So that means that we can start looking at a potential execution. But you guys know that before I start looking for an execution on a short, after price action and liquidity have confirmed my bias, I always have to look at the statistical confluence of the Monoma dashboard, and the statistical confluence is aligning beautiful with our bias based on price action and liquidity. Because what we can see is that we put in Monday high, aka P1 for the current week on Monday. The current weekly low we put in a few hours ago, so that is making sure that the P2 for the current week has been put in on Wednesday. Now we can see that because we made the current weekly low on a Wednesday, the last time that we put in P2 on a Wednesday is 25 weeks ago. We can see that the current weekly low, based on the timing of that weekly low, only has a 12.9% chance to hold. And the current weekly high, aka the Monday high in the P1 for the week so far, already has a 71.5% chance to hold based on the current weekly timing statistics. So that means that the weekly high has a high probability to hold, and the current weekly low has a very low probability to hold, and there's a very high probability to put in the weekly low on Thursday, but especially on Friday, Saturday or Sunday. On the other hand, the weekly distance statistics are showcasing a 33.3% chance that the current weekly high is going to get broken. So the current weekly high has a 67% chance to hold based on the current distance that the current weekly candle has made so far from the weekly high to the weekly low. Now on the other hand, we can see that there's a 93.5% chance to get a bigger move compared to the current move that we have seen so far this week. So that means that based on the weekly distance statistics, the weekly high has a high probability to hold, and there's a very, very high probability, almost a 100% probability, that we are going to see a bigger move compared to the current move that we have seen so far this week. So that means that there's a very high probability to either make a new weekly low or a new weekly high. But since the weekly high is a high probability to hold based on both the distance and the timing, it is very likely for Bitcoin to make a new weekly low. So that means that based on the weekly statistics, the weekly high has a very high probability to hold and the weekly low has a very low probability to hold. So that means that the weekly statistics for Bitcoin are confirming our bias. So that means that we start looking at the execution for our potential short idea, which means that I always want to enter where other people are getting stopped out. Now we can see that we are in a local range over here. And what we can see is that we are seeing this push to the downside and another push to the downside. We know that on these pushes to the downside, when we break through previous lows, like we see over here and like we see over here, what are people doing? What is the retail trader doing right now? Indeed, they're entering breakdown shorts over here or breakdown shorts over here. And the people that enter those breakdown shorts, or the people that are panic selling their spot positions upon these breakdowns to the downside, where are those people placing the stops of those shorts? They're placing the stop loss over here, or they are placing their stop loss over here. Which means that if I always want to enter where other people are getting stopped out, I want to enter when we take out the highs right over here or the high right over here. Which means that in order to execute my short idea on Bitcoin, I'm going to await an exit pump to squeeze the late shorts that entered over here, to take out their stop loss over here. That's where I'm looking to enter, and then I am targeting this sell side liquidity right over here. So at the end of the day, the setup would look something like this, in which I'm hoping for a bit of an exit pump to fill my order before getting continued downside on Thursday, Friday, Saturday or Sunday for Bitcoin. We have a high probability invalidation, aka the current weekly high, aka the current weekly P1, which is a high probability invalidation, not only based on price action and liquidity over here, but also on the weekly timing and distance statistics. Now that I've shared my Bitcoin short setup, let's move over to my analysis and potential trading idea on Ethereum as well. If you guys appreciate this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and smash up the like button, and let's move over to Ethereum. Now for Ethereum, we can see that Ethereum is still range bound right over here and has been tapping into that range high, and while tapping into the range high, we have taken out some major buy side liquidity that was resting above this high over here. Now we can also see that Ethereum has a very important and pivotal range low area right over here. When we measure the mid-range for Ethereum, we can go from the high to the low, and we can see that we have our mid-range level right over here for Ethereum. It is always super important to map out both the range high, the range low, and also the mid-range. We know that technically speaking, from a range perspective, if we reject around the range high, our first objective should be the mid-range and our second objective should be the range low right over here. Now that means that we have a potential target that aligns as well with, on a daily time frame, a bullish daily fair value gap, just like we were seeing for Bitcoin. We also have one over here for Ethereum, and once again, just like we've seen for Bitcoin, also for Ethereum, with that bullish daily fair value gap and also that mid-range, we also have this previous supply that should now be acting as demand, aka this hour 4 breaker block, also aligns with the bullish daily fair value gap, with that bullish mid-range level, and definitely acts as a nice target for Ethereum. When we start moving to the lower time frame, there's something interesting going on for Ethereum as well. We can see that Ethereum was moving extremely choppy right over here. Eventually we saw an aggressive push to the upside, and we had plenty of liquidity resting right over here above this high. Why was there so much liquidity resting above that high? Because when we move to the 15-minute time frame, we can see that over here we had a sweep of this high that led to an impulse to the downside that gave us a break of structure over here. So what did people do, especially when they saw that consolidation after the break of structure? They all started shorting the price of Ethereum, targeting lower levels, and where were they placing their stop? Exactly. They were once again placing their stop loss above this high, and because we were consolidating over here for so long, more and more people started shorting the price of Ethereum, and more people started placing their stop loss above that high. So we were engineering lots of liquidity above that high. We then got an aggressive push in towards that liquidity pool, and when getting that push towards the liquidity pool, we formed a new local high over here. After forming that local high, we form a higher high, making the low that brought us to that higher high a significant low to break. We can see that on the 1 hourly time frame, we indeed got an aggressive push to the downside and we broke through that low. So we have our drawn liquidity over here for Ethereum. We have our trigger right over here with the mitigation of this liquidity pool, then a local sweep that led to a local break of structure to the downside over here. So we can start looking at a potential execution for our short idea, since we still have that mid-range that we need to tag as well alongside the bullish daily fair value gap for Ethereum. That means that I start looking at a potential execution. Once again, I always want to enter where other people are getting stopped out. When I move to the 15-minute time frame, what I can see over here is that we were seeing this slow grind to the downside over here for Ethereum. This slow grind leads to an impulsive move to the downside right over here. Now my bet is that on this last impulsive move to the downside, many people hopped into breakdown shorts over here for Ethereum. Where are those people going to place their stop loss? They're going to place their stop loss of that short above this high, this high, this high, or this high, which means that due to this recent push to the downside for Ethereum, we are engineering plenty of liquidity over here. As I've told you guys, I always want to enter where other people are getting stopped out. That means that the plan for Ethereum is similar as my plan for Bitcoin. I'm awaiting a bit of a squeeze to the upside to squeeze those late short positions, and once we are taking out the buy side liquidity for Ethereum, I will be looking for low time frame confirmation rather than a limit short before I short the price of Ethereum back to the downside to take out this low over here, to tap into the daily fair value gap, and to also take the mid-range right over here for Ethereum. So for Bitcoin, I'm going to set a limit short setup, but for Ethereum, I'm going to await low time frame confirmation and low time frame signs of weakness inside of my POI over here once we take out some buy side above these highs or some buy side above this high right over here.